Resident Evil has been around for quite a while at this point, and it's safe to say it has more or less cemented itself as an iconic part of the games industry. That being said, every icon needs a symbol, and if any symbol encapsulates Resident Evil, it's Umbrella. The enigmatic pharmaceutical company kicked off this franchise and everyone knows it, including Capcom, Umbrella Chronicles, Umbrella Corps, and while Operation Raccoon City doesn't have Umbrella in the title, it squeezes every drop it possibly could from the well-wrung towel that is the Umbrella Corporation. Even when other people take a crack at the whole Resident Evil thing, they make damn sure they include Umbrella. Paul W.S. Anderson completely centered his entire franchise around the company. S.D. Perry's novels, while being more in line with the games, still depart with original stories, further fleshing out our main character's fight against the evil company. It seems no matter how lackluster or even downright terrible the product is, there's a pretty big incentive to include Umbrella in some capacity. However, do you know who couldn't care less about Umbrella? Just could absolutely not give a shit at all? Well, that would be none other than Resident Evil 4.
If I had $1 for every time they said I gave a shit, I'd be broke, cause I don't give a shit.
Seriously, RE4 starts off like, okay, you know that super interesting and mysterious organization you've been duking it out with since the start? Yeah, their stock prices fell, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Well, have fun shooting Spanish people. We now find ourselves in a situation where Resident Evil has completely and utterly written out Umbrella in a way that basically ensured that they could not bring them back. They then spend the next decade trying to bring them back. The next handful of games all featured some kind of enigmatic evil company fronting as something else. Tricell is Umbrella at Home and Neo Umbrella. Well, it's literally called New Umbrella. The spin-offs were not even spared, with the FBC in Revelations and TerraSave in Rev 2. That game in particular getting a bonus with Alex Wesker's seemingly benign mining operation. Besides being a rip-off of what came before, all these companies have one thing in common: being utterly disposable. Frankly, these new bad guy operations aren't interesting at all and pale in comparison to the OG. Besides that, they are often overshadowed by their over-the-top leaders, a flaw that was never present with Umbrella. Regardless, these companies don't have the opportunity to become interesting because they're all pretty much toppled in the same game they're introduced. Capcom eventually got over this whole redoing Umbrella thing, but they still couldn't fully commit to dropping it with Blue Umbrella, which is its own can of worms. So we're left with a pretty bizarre situation. The most popular entity in this series hasn't been relevant to the expanding story since Code Veronica.
I can't switch over to manual control.
My apologies, but I cannot let you escape now.
Alfred, you cross-dressing freak!
Oh, hey, that is uncalled for.
And there seem to be no qualms with dropping Umbrella in the first place, which makes it utterly bizarre that they would then try to claw that recognizability back as hard as possible. Why was that decision made to axe it in the first place? Well, obviously I wasn't there. I can hazard a guess it was born from a place of frustration. It's no secret RE4 went through a ton of iterations before it settled on the game we have today. A decision was probably came to just say, forget it, wipe the slate clean, that way we can do whatever we want. I really want to shoot Spaniards, and I can't do that with this stupid Umbrella shit looming over me. Well, you're probably thinking, well, that solves it then. A decision was made out of frustration, and the future of the series wasn't considered when it was made, and it ultimately suffered for it. However, here is where the conundrum comes into play, because the truth of the matter is, Umbrella had to be written out. Now granted, it didn't have to be as anticlimactic as it was, but with the change in direction these games have taken, it's safe to say that Umbrella or any similar entity cannot stick around. Now why is that? Well, it's entirely to do with our character's underdog status, or lack thereof. The first few games can easily be regarded as having the characters being completely on the outs. They're thrown into crushingly difficult scenarios that they are not prepared for whatsoever. Even in Code Veronica, Claire is still rocking a motorcycle vest, and she's using the pistol that she just happened to find in Resident Evil 2. A far cry from some kind of organized attack. There's a great shift when we move from the older style games into 4. Sure, Leon is about as well armed at the start of 4 as he is in 2, however, there is a clear shift in who has the upper hand when it comes to combat prowess. Far more importantly, however, is the underdog status in the story itself. After the mansion incident, and especially after Raccoon City, the main group of characters are well aware as to what Umbrella is up to. However, the problem is no one will believe them. It's a giant well-known company against the word of a handful of individuals, most of which are disgraced cops. There's a reason Chris is running around the globe by himself. It's because he has virtually no support. Now contrast that with RE5, where Chris is a key operative of an organization whose sole mission is to stop bioterror. Let's also not forget Leon is now the president's most trusted agent. Here's where we get to the heart of the issue. If every single one of Ari's characters are all notable figures in the war against bioterror, they could easily out Umbrella as this horrific company. Hey Mr. President of BSAA, we have a collective 10,000 files on how Umbrella was making lizard men, giant spiders, and this fucking guy. Look, I get it, it's not so cut and dry when it comes to corruption, but these people would have so much dirt on this company that I don't think Umbrella would have any chance of weathering that storm. This goes doubly for the copycats. Beyond that though, most of the heads of those organizations end up kneeling before Monster Mash and pledging their allegiance to the Graveyard Smash. When the CEO of your company's current status is several story high tentacle monster currently being shot at with RPGs by Chris Redfield and his young ward, your stock price may take a bit of a dip. I guess that leaves us with the question of why they even tried to keep doing the whole shady company thing after RE4, and I really don't have an answer to that. Maybe they themselves didn't fully understand as to why it didn't work anymore. However, I think the more likely scenario was that it was a relatively easy narrative through line to use in order to explain things away and organize a storyline. That's all in the past now. These problems are from a bygone era, as the past 2 mainline games have pretty much dropped the whole shadowy organization thing. So is that it? Have they finally wised up and this concept is dead? I don't think that's the case, as I'm pretty sure they have wised up in more ways than one, because I believe Capcom has finally found a way to make this work. In RE8 during the Chris section, there's an extremely minor part where the BSAA shows up in the distance. But what's extremely strange is that the BSAA themselves are using bioweapons. This obviously brings up about a million different questions, but what I think this really points to is that the BSAA has more than likely been corrupted. This right here is the one way to make the evil organization work again. The BSAA's whole goal is to fight bioterrorism, and are the de facto leader in this effort. If they have turned to the dark side, there's no telling what they could get away with. So I guess I'll just say what I hope will happen. I hope Capcom is setting up the BSAA as the new Umbrella, and I hope they will run with this concept for a while. They don't necessarily have to be the main antagonist in every game from here on out, however, they should be an ever-evolving adversary. That being said, there's a real possibility of fucking this up. Truly what my biggest worry is that they will set this up, get all the gears turning, and then you'll square off with the leader of the company who will look like this. He'll inject himself with some kind of virus strain and turn into a giant monster. You'll shoot him in a glowy eye until you can blow him up with a rocket launcher, and then that will be it. The BSAA will be utterly defeated and we'll never hear from them again. I guess ultimately time will tell, and either this video will be a testament to how right I was, or a testament to how wrong I was. I hope they know what they're doing though, because despite how goofy these games can be sometimes, I've been shown that they can pull out a pretty compelling story once in a while. So maybe, just maybe, they'll pull it off.
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.